You're listening to Doopy Deep with Dr. Nikki. This is the place where witty, irreverent, opinionated perspective meets serious, fact-based discussion. Featuring our host, Dr. Nikki Coleman, and her co-host, Tomas Bell. You can also join in the discussion during our live tapings by following us on Spreaker.com. Now, the doctor is in. It's time to get Doopy Deep.
And we're back. Welcome back to Doopy Deep with Dr. Nikki and Tomas.
And how are you?
Oh, how are you, Tomas?
Yes, I'm not drinking my water through the first 5-10 minutes of the show today. So I am ready to go.
So you're pre-hydrated this time.
Pre-hydrated.
So I'm glad you provided such a smooth segue into one of the things that I wanted to do with getting us started today was talk a little bit more about who we are. Last week, we wanted to just kind of give our listeners a bigger picture intro to what Doopy Deep as a concept show is. And we talked a lot about wanting to talk about all the things that are happening for us day in and day out, but putting a little bit more of a critical lens and thoughtful lens on it. So we want to spend a little time this morning or this afternoon for our East Coast listeners talking a little bit more about who we are. So I'm Dr. Nikki. Like I said last time, I'm an academic as a primary thing, but I didn't talk a little bit about what I do. So I'm a counseling psychologist. And primarily, I teach classes that are around training future therapists. That is my biggest interest from a teaching perspective. But I also teach a lot of courses on issues of culture and social justice, talking about things like race and sexual orientation and intersectionality. And how we can create greater equity and social justice in those areas from a psychological, and sometimes I bring a little bit of sociological lens. And then as a researcher, one of my biggest interests is looking at Black women's sexuality. I know it's still morning time and I said the SEX word, but I think it's a widely understudied and widely overly stereotyped subject. And so a large part of my professional interests are around those two topics. Now, what does that have to do with Tomas and who is this guy? So Tomas is kind of like my too big MC for those of you all who remember MC Hammer in this setting. You like that, Tomas?
No, I do not. I prefer Flavor Flav because once in a while, I have to hit you with a, yeah, boy, to keep you in check and urbanize your soul.
If that makes you Chuck D, I'm okay with that analogy. Actually, that's way better than that.
You are the Chuck D dropping the knowledge, and I'm the one saying, I can't do nothing for you, man. That's how we roll in here on Doopy Deep.
So if you're unfamiliar with either of those two reference points, maybe if we said, like, he's the Ed McMahon to my Jimmy Carson. That's kind of the dynamic that we have here. So I think we've covered the spectrum of cultural iconic references for you to understand.
Indeed.
So Tomas and I actually met years ago. I won't say how many years because he doesn't like to admit how old he is. And I, as a good friend, I try to be protective of that.
It's no one's business.
And so we met, and when we met, I was early on in my career. It was my first academic appointment. And I was in upstate New York. It was culture shock for me on so many levels. But Tomas and I were kind of drawn together to be friends because we have lots of similarities in our personality. That's the story that I've always kind of gone with. But the reality is he was so drawn to my Black girl magic, even before we had the term Black girl magic.
And that she was overwhelmed by my Black boy joy, which you will all experience in full fold next week. So there.
So what do we mean when we talk about Black girl magic? And what was it about me that was so irresistible? And so, first of all, I want to give props to a citation for the original source, if you will, to Miss Kashawn Thompson. So she is the first Black woman that started using the hashtag Black Girl Magic back in 2015. And so I definitely want to give her thanks for giving voice to this kind of transcendent phenomenon that all the Black women in my life have always known to be true since before. We have been, as a group, epitomizing this essence of Black Girl Magic. I like to kind of define it as the natural exceptionality that is afforded every Black girl at birth. I think about it as literal gold glitter pulsing through our veins. It's wrapped into our DNA. And if we want to get a little bit more specific, it is our inherent capacity to get ish done, but always with flair, uniqueness, and a general just majestic sense, no matter what the task. So we want to talk a little bit more about what that means and where that comes from today. Tomas, I know that you do have your own Black boy joy, but I have met your mother and met some of the other women in your life. So I know that you have been intimately familiar with this concept of Black Girl Magic since you've been around. So what are your thoughts about what it is?
I think that the term, if I'm going to be serious for a second, and you know I don't like to, but I will. But I think the term Black Girl Magic is so important. And I'm going to argue from the position of being a Black man that it may be even more important than Black Boy Joy. And I understand the importance of Black Boy Joy. And again, we'll talk about that next week. But our Black women are disrespected on so many levels by so many different people. Have to fight 3 to 4 to 5 times as hard. That's just as hard as a Black man to move ahead, to get ahead. Mm-hmm. So when I see sisters celebrating themselves, something that is long overdue, mm-hmm. and taking the initiative to celebrate themselves. And I think that for me is the key in the power of Black Girl Magic, because it's not about someone saying to a Black woman, here, celebrate yourself. Mm-hmm. This is about Black women saying, I deserve to celebrate me, and I deserve to be the person to start that celebration. That is powerful. So powerful. And I think we take it for granted because it's just a hashtag and we hashtag all day long. But if you look at the real message behind that, owning your own sense of self-worth is the greatest gift you can give yourself. So I'm excited we're here today talking about this.
So, and I love that. And that's exactly what I had here in my notes is that, you know, for me, they're two separate things, right? So one is acknowledging that there's this phenomenon of Black Girl Magic, but two is like the hashtag and kind of craze that's come around it. And for me, the hashtag Black Girl Magic really is a celebration of ourselves for ourselves. And that in and of itself is powerful. Because as you said, oftentimes Black women aren't necessarily given our props, right? Sorry about that. We aren't given our props. And so Kashawn Thompson said, well, you know what? We can do this for ourselves, as we have been. And so we shall continue to do. So for me, like it is epitomized if you think about any industry, any talent, any occupation, any set of achievements that you can list. You really can find a Black woman that is gleaming at the top of the pack. And the recognition of Black Girl Magic is that there's some inherent sense of thriving and success and shooting for kind of the optimal best in something when we really go after something and achieve it. But there's another piece of it that I think is really important to talk about. And there's this sense of sisterhood. And that's where the celebration piece comes in, right? That we want to recognize that we are only as strong as our weakest member, to put it kind of in layman's terms. And so for me, what I love about it is being able to be part of a celebration with other people. So it doesn't always have to be my accomplishment. But if I see another Black girl demonstrating her magic, it makes me feel like it is my accomplishment. It makes me feel like I have a sense of ownership for it. So like two things happened just this past week. One was Serena Williams serving for the gods on the cover of Time magazine, right? In all of her maternity beautiful glory. And then also
that
we had
honestly made me want to go out and get pregnant. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Because I'm gonna need a photo with all types of sheer gold cloths wrapping me in such a beautiful way. That was such a beautiful
But you see what I'm saying right there? That is the unquantifiable essence of Black girl magic. That you now want to be Serena so that you can look like right.
I want the records too. I'll tell you that. She got tennis records to live and die for.
Oh my goodness! Right? I mean, just smashing boundaries, right? Like, here's the line. Oh, what line? I didn't see it. I'm just, powering through because it's what I do.
Absolutely.
Then we also had this other sister, Alicia. I hope I'm saying her name correctly, Montano, who, though she didn't win the race, she ran an 800-meter race, 5 months pregnant. Like the real life Wonder Woman.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And people, if you don't, and I think this is something that we as men especially don't understand, the challenges of being pregnant at any trimester, but the challenges of training one's body to have that level of longevity at 5 months pregnant. I don't think that we as guys get that. And the fact that she was able to accomplish that and finish, it just speaks to her will and testament and truthfully her Black girl magic. There it is.
There it is. As a Black girl who is magical, but not when it comes to being pregnant, I can tell you like 5 weeks in, I would have been like, run where? Do what? No, thank you. So for me to see her
been pregnant, I don't even run for the subway train if I need to be someplace. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, and the other part about it is if you look at the photos, she looks joyful, right? There's just Absolutely. Like, she doesn't look pained. She doesn't look uncomfortable. She doesn't even look disappointed that she didn't win the race. She looks, it looks effortless, right? Like you really don't even see a whole bunch of sweat rolling off of her.
Right.
The belly is there. It's gorgeous. And she looks transcendent. She just looks so purely happy. And so for me, like that's how I always know that I am in witness of Black girl magic, is because the moment I saw that, immediately I start smiling. The moment I see the Serena Williams cover, I start smiling. I was listening to morning radio, and I don't know who it was, but some other male tennis player made some comment about Serena in terms of like, yeah, she may be a wonderful female tennis player, but she wouldn't be able to hold her own if she were to compete against men. And so I'm not even a tennis follower. I'm not a sports person. I don't follow the sport like that. But immediately when I started listening to this, I was like, who is he? And I want his Twitter right now so I can let him know. And for me, it's that piece of sisterhood, that sense of connection, that sense of recognizing that when one of us is successful and rises and shines, then all of us do collectively. And that for me is the biggest win of this whole phenomenon that is the hashtag Black Girl Magic. You were going to say something?
I'm sorry.
You have thoughts and opinions. What would you like to share?
I stay with thoughts and opinions. I'm laughing because as I said, you got a second, she's still talking, you can take that sip of water.
And I quit. I need you to keep all beverages.
Why do you always catch me with water in my mouth? What is going on? You've known me long enough to know how thirsty I stay. Come on now.
And that is what it is. You again are witnessing my Black girl man.
No, but seriously, I think an interesting aspect of this is that Black girl magic is not anything special. It's not spectacular. Now follow me. It's not. Wait a minute. You see the Black girl? Wait a minute. You see the Black girl? Your magic.